Genre.
In the world of Hollywood, movies get greenlit and redlit. They get remade and rebooted. But we are the Ideal. I'm Sam Gasch, and you are listening to Ideal Remake. Thank you for listening to Ideal Remake. We take movies that either have been, will be, or should be remade and talk about what the ideal version of that remake would be. Now, I used to think recording a podcast was a simple affair. Host meets guest, they fall in like. Host brings a cast list, guest brings a cast list. They say, I can't hear you, can you speak up? I was wrong. That's just a conversation with Scott Carelli. Recording a podcast with Scott Carelli is an entirely different proposition. So, Scott, is Father of the Bride a movie that has been, will be, or should be remade?
All of the above.
Yeah. Awesome. So, you've been on the show before. You know how this all works.
Yeah.
But this is the first Ideal Remake episode that I'm recording with you as a part of the Dueling Genre network, which is your network.
That's true.
So
I'm like lowercase your boss now. Lowercase.
I've got lots of bosses. It's fine. I'll add one more to the pile. So, I would say, let's introduce you to the new Dueling Genre people who are listening. But if there's anyone they're gonna know, it's you.
Fair enough. Yeah, fair enough.
But just in case this is the first time someone's listening to an episode of mine where you're the guest, tell everyone a little bit about yourself.
Well, I'm the co-founder of Dueling Genre, the podcast network that you're listening to, a podcast that is a part of that network. I host Franchisography. That's new. If you only listen to Ideal Remake, Franchisography is a podcast that I started with my co-host Nick Jimenez, co-host and writing partner Nick Jimenez, and we talk about film franchises, and we talk about the history of them, the development of them, and we go movie by movie and talk about the whole process of making them, and then we break the movie down and just sort of talk about why it works, why it doesn't work, or why it could be better. And it is a lot of fun. We enter it all from the perspective of the reason I wanted to do it is because you hear so often where people see a movie and they'll come out and be like, wow, the script for that was bad. And it's like, oh yeah, did you read the script? Did you read the script? Or do you just think that the movie, a script is a transcript of the movie you just watched? And it's that sort of thing where I'm trying to figure out okay, this movie's bad, but why is it bad? Why were these decisions made? And usually if you dig deep enough into that research, you can usually find a narrative and a story that explains everything. And you're suddenly like, oh, that makes a lot of sense that it is that way. Okay. Wow. It doesn't make the movie any better necessarily, but you understand it better.
But it makes it more interesting.
It definitely makes it more interesting. Absolutely. So that's what we try to do on Franchisography, and we are having a ton of fun doing it. I'm really proud of the show, so you should check it out.
I think anyone who enjoys this show would also enjoy Franchisography, and not just specifically season 1, episode 3. There's other episodes that you can also enjoy.
Yes.
But if anyone
Sam joined us. We covered Men in Black, and Sam joined us for Men in Black 3, a movie that he had not seen until we covered it. We had a really great conversation out of it, though.
Yeah, I enjoyed that whole season. I enjoyed my episode also. It was all great.
Yeah.
And then if anyone saw me when I was going ham on Twitter trying to promote Spy Kids, it was for Franchisography.
And it won.
And
it worked.
It worked.
Yeah.
Yeah. all that campaigning practice paid off.
Yeah. Spy Kids is going to be our 4th season. So
I'm genuinely excited. It's going to be so cool. Let's get more Spy Kids content out there. The world wants to know.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, it'll be fun. Cool. So we were trying to figure out an episode to record, and I don't remember what we originally were talking about, but then you rewatched this movie on your own, and you're like, Sam, we have to talk about this movie.
Yes.
Why did you want to talk about Father of the Bride?
So the thing that struck me rewatching Father of the Bride, I was in a Nancy Meyers mood, okay? And sometimes I get in these moods where I just want to watch a movie about a rich boomer family in their big kitchen Um, and sometimes I'm just in that mood, and I was in that mood that day, and I'm gonna watch. So I was like, I gotta watch a Nancy Meyers. That's what I'm in the mood for. But I was looking through the Nancy Meyers, and I was like, it's a lot of midlife crisis, like existential crisis kind of movies, and so I was like, I want to go a little earlier in her career, and I settled on Father of the Bride, the movie I hadn't seen probably since I was a kid, but I remember liking. It's got Steve Martin. Steve Martin's great,
Yep.
right? And so I was like, yeah, let's hit up Father of the Bride. And also they did a Father of the Bride 3-ish, part 3-ish during all of the quarantine stuff. They did like a Zoom episode, and or a Zoom movie, a Zoom sequel, and it rules. It's really, really good and fun and charming.
Cool.
So I watched the whole series, just like part 1 through 3, all the way through. And so it was really great. But I'm watching this movie, and number one, it should be stated, this is being remade literally right now, with an all Latino cast.
Great.
Yeah. So that's happening right now. It's going to be a little different than the one I'm pitching, for just age and story reasons, but I'll get there in a second. But I was watching this and I was like, wow, there's like a scene in this where they leave their gigantic house in Los Angeles. They live in Los Angeles. It's a gigantic house. It looks like the house from Home Alone. I mean, it is huge. It is a huge house. They leave that house to go to the in-laws' house for lunch, and they show up and they're just like, oh my God, their house is so huge. We look like peasants compared to them. And I'm like, only boomers could make a movie like this.
I had the same thought. Like, they basically drove out of Beverly Hills and drove into Rodeo Drive, and they're like, oh man, this is how the other half lives.
Yeah, it is bananas. And I was just thinking, wow, there's a lot in this movie I like, but there's a lot of stuff that's dated, very like boomer generational views on the world, both from a financial standpoint and also just from like a philosophical standpoint in terms of how the family dynamics work and all of these things. And so I was like, this is a really fun, charming movie, but it's very, very dated in the way that it views things like weddings and, male, female, dynamics and father-daughter dynamics and mother-daughter. Everything is very sort of generic.
Yeah.
Like it hasn't changed much from like the 50s.
Well, here's the thing, because this movie is a remake of a movie from 1950.
Right.
Where I imagine a lot of the things happen. And what I thought was interesting watching this movie is that I actually kind of thought it walked the line a little bit, because we can clearly see Steve Martin being like, well, I can't have my precious daughter, my baby, going out and being with some other man.
Right.
But the movie kept making clear over and over again that he was wrong. It wasn't saying, well, of course, it wasn't being the kind of like soft remake of this movie where you have like your Mel Gibson terrible father or your Mark Wahlberg or Dave Frank or Random Franco brother being a loser fiance. Like, they make soft remakes of this movie all the time where you kind of see where he's coming from, or like he's doing the macho thing of like, shh, you best stay away from my daughter.
Sure.
Neither of that happens. Every step of the way, in terms of like emotions, Steve Martin's wrong, and the movie tells you that he's wrong.
Absolutely, yeah.
Until we get to Martin Short, then it's different. But because then it's like, I did the math. 572 people at $250 a head is $143,000.
Yeah.
And that's just for food. And I also don't think you need swans at a wedding.
Right.
Or valets.
So and that is the whole crux of what my idea for this remake is, because I think that you can't just make another movie where George is afraid of his daughter getting married.
Right.
And is like, oh, these weddings, they're so expensive. Like you just can't make another wedding like that, or another movie like that.
Right.
My thought was, what if, because I'm pretty sure the all Latino cast, Father of the Bride, is kind of just doing the similar thing, but with like a Gen X father, you know?
Sure.
But it's kind of the same thing. It's going to probably be a Catholic wedding instead of a Christian,
it's
the wedding they have in
movie,
here,
but with not white people.
Exactly.
So
that's what it seems.
So we can rely on we can take all the stereotypes of white people and replace them with all the stereotypes of Latinx people.
Absolutely. Yeah. Right. That's probably what it's going to be.
Of course.
Because, typically when a remake happens, it's done the easy way, the easiest way possible.
Yeah. Well, because you're making a remake not because you have a good creative idea, but because there's money to be made. And
right.
You're not going to waste some of that money to be made on, well, we've got the script. Just do that, but browner.
Right. Yeah. Right. So my idea is you do a millennial George. And the pitch that I have for this is you flip everything around and you have the daughter getting engaged is not a surprise, right? She's been dating the guy for a while and then it's like, it's happening. But the switch is that George is a millennial. So that means he's fairly young, which means he got married fairly young. And my thought is when he got married, he was extremely young, extremely poor, and the wedding was barely anything. But this is the type of guy, is this hopeless romantic who has always dreamed of a big, extravagant wedding, and his daughter's getting married, and now he's like, yes, it's finally time. And then it's a story about him taking over the wedding and finally giving his daughter the wedding of his dreams, and having to learn that it's not your wedding, like your wedding was fine and you're happy now, and that's all that you need. Now you need to make the wedding that she wants, and what she wants is a small wedding with just like her family and close friends. And yeah. And that's and so like I feel like as an arc, as like you're doing the same movie, it's still like a dad who's like doing this crazy thing around a wedding, and like, but it's flipping it so that everything is the opposite of what it is in the movie that we watched.
Yes.
I
like it. It's a big emotional flip, and I think that's very clever. How old is the oldest millennial? Early 40s.
Yeah, early 40s. I mean, you could probably cast people like up to 45 because, no one ages anymore.
Sure. I will say that I went with a Nina Banks in her 40s, and I think my George is 52.
Oh, okay.
So,
all right. My Georges were a little younger than that. Yeah.
We'll get to that.
We'll get to that. Yeah.
But that makes sense to me. I think that's more interesting because the movie as it stands now, I actually think the movie is fairly progressive for its time, because it's taking the whole like father being protective of his daughter and it's going, guys, just they're adults. Like literally the other dad, John McKenzie, was great. Like, I think we need to have more scenes with John and Joanna McKenzie because they were the kind of like self-actualized, well, at some point you just got to let them go and hope you raise them right.
Yeah.
And I was like, yeah, that is the message. You just said the movie. Like, that's the thing.
Yeah.
And great. Like, let's focus on that. And like that's what this movie is saying is correct.
Right.
So now I think you're right I think there's going to be a lot of millennials and a lot of people who are just, man, being a millennial's hard. We've had to live through a lot, and we don't want our kids to have to live through that. And we just want them to be happy so bad. Yeah.
Right.
And if we couldn't be a Pokemon master, by God, they will be a Pokemon master.
Right.
Or whatever their hobby is of choice.
Yeah.
That makes sense to me. Okay. So theoretically, the dad then is the one that wants the big wedding, and Annie is the one who wants to keep things small.
Small and intimate. Yeah.
Got it.
Yeah. But and that's the thing. That's the key. She wants it small and intimate because that's what her parents had, and she finds that romantic. But George, having finally found success and having like money and a savings account, wants to blow it all on this huge wedding, but that's not what Annie wants.
I will also say that George's job as a sneaker manufacturer was also fairly modern. Like a sneakerhead movie from whenever this came out, I was like, what?
Yeah, but it's also one of those jobs that I feel like pops up a lot in boomer movies.
Does it?
Because it's in... Yeah, it's in Jumanji.
Really?
Remember in Jumanji?
No.
Yeah. Oh, have you not seen
I've
the
seen
first Jumanji?
but like years ago.
Oh, okay, yeah. The father who ends up being like the big game hunter in Jumanji, same actor. The father ran a sneaker factory because that's where David Alan Grier worked, and he invented like the sneaker, and then it got like chewed up in the machine, and then it ruined his life.
Got it.
But
because I liked that, like, it was super downplayed and it was a super small moment, but the moment where like it's the bridal sneakers and then she's actually wearing them, I loved that. I thought that was super sweet.
Yeah, it is extremely sweet. I do love that. It's just funny that it's like the kind of job you can't really have now. You know, it's like there's. Can you remember the last time a new sneaker company like actually came in and made a dent on anything?
I think you and I are both the wrong people to answer that question.
Well, that's probably true, but
because
you know.
I think there has been that, but we just wouldn't know.
Yeah, fair enough.
I mean,
you know what? Fair enough.
I mean, there was like my creative director when I was in college left doing like the set and everything because the pants he designed, the company was taking off, so he went to go do that. And like you see, like I get advertised on Instagram all the time, like the shoes that you can hammer and pour water on and everything, and
yeah.
And then there's like the shoes with LED lights in them.
Yeah.
There's no, and then like you drive down Melrose Avenue in the before times or even now, like there's lines out the door. Like Air Jordans are still popular, but there's got to be like the new brands. I'm like there are constantly coming out with celebrities releasing their brand of sneaker. Like even at an established Nike company or other companies, like they're doing their brand endorsements with like the different musicians and athletes and people who it's like it's their sneaker that's being designed.
Right.
Like even if George isn't the one running Nike or whatever the company is, like if George can be the one that's like helping get the Post Malone sneaker into the world.
Sure.
I mean, you bought you just posted today that you bought Kermit the Frog shoes.
I sure did. Kermit the Frog Adidas.
Like, someone has to be at the company to make Kermit the Frog Adidas happen.
That's true. Yeah, fair enough.
So, even if he doesn't own the company,
I
feel like that's a pretty good job.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, I like the idea of him being responsible for, like, special edition shoes.
Yeah.
That's kind of fun.
Especially because then he can make one-of-a-kind bridal shoes.
Yeah, true.
So, which, of course, she can then turn around and sell for $50,000 because they're one-of-a-kind.
Yeah. Sneakerheads, man.
Yeah. It is both a sweet thing and his wedding gift.
Yeah.
Not that a blender's anything wrong. Oh no, he didn't get a blender. He got an expression machine.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So I like all of that. I also just thought it was funny that, we're going to invite 572 people. And immediately they just start talking about the parents' friends and her friends are never mentioned. I'm like, it's her wedding. Let her just invite the friends of the people getting married.
Yeah. Yeah.
when I eventually get married, my parents can have a table just for them. Like a kid's table so that they have someone to talk to. Everyone else needs to be for me and whoever I'm marrying.
Yeah.
It's weird. Like, well, they're my best client. You're not getting married. Boomer stuff.
Yep, very much. There's so much of that in this movie. There's so many times where you're just like, boomers, man. Wow. What a different life you guys led.
Very much so.
Like, I grew up watching movies like this and thinking this was normal and this was the life that I was going to have one day. And it's just like, no one is going to have a life like that. Just them. They're the only ones.
The movie starts with him describing white flight.
Yeah.
Oh man, when I got out here, I didn't really want to live in the city anymore. I moved out to this small county, and it's basically stayed the same for 20 years.
Yeah.
That's coded messaging, buddy. We don't love that.
Yeah. Yeah.
With that in mind, because the Martin Short and BD Wong characters are so visible in the original movie, we got to have some version of that.
Yeah.
But it's got the nice thing about your pitch is that we're basically done. I completely agree. I think that's great. Let's move on. But like, what they play such caricatures, and obviously these are people that George is bringing in and that Annie doesn't want.
Right. So I think number one, I think that they need to really be gay. Well, both of them need to really be gay.
Sure.
Like the actors that we cast. So like not Martin Short doing a caricature, but like, you know, actual gay people. I also think they should maybe be a legitimate couple. I think that would be fun because it's like hinted that they're dating in the movies, but it's also like it could go either way, you know? I don't know.
It's still an uncomfortable power dynamic unless they're into it.
No, I think I just think that they're partners.
Yes.
Like it's like So anyway, my thought is going off of what you were saying about him being in charge of the special edition shoes, maybe they are like some kind of designer of some sort, like event. Maybe they're event people in the shoe industry, typically for these like premieres of these like special edition shoes and things like that. And he's like, I've worked with these people forever. Like, and so you flip the dynamic again by having him bring them in and be like, these guys, they're the best of the best. They're going to make your wedding amazing, you know? And that's how you bring them in so that the dynamic shifts where George isn't the one that's uncomfortable with them. It's kind of everybody else because they're like, how much is this costing? He's like, it doesn't matter. It's for a little girl. Like, it doesn't matter, you know?
I have two non sequiturs to describe. One is so I have a friend who like is a baker and like makes cakes and like makes these big elaborate cakes. Like the cake I have sitting in my kitchen right now as a birthday gift was made by this baker friend of mine, and he makes these big elaborate cakes. And then I'll notice on it it'll say like "Happy First Birthday, Matthew," and I'm like, it's not for Matthew.
Yeah, right. Yeah,
it's not.
Yeah.
But then. So one of the first clients I had when I was like starting to do my own thing was I worked briefly for a woman who was in charge of, like, she worked for BET, and she was kind of in charge of like organizing the parties and everything and setting up the gifting suites, which are a thing that exist.
Yeah.
And I can imagine that, especially someone who designs designer sneakers and like has all these connections, would know the people who literally it's their job to make celebrity level parties. And what makes celebrity level parties memorable and what gets people tweeting about them and taking pictures with all the merch are the giveaways.
Right.
You want to take this and like heighten it even more. You go to a wedding and they're giving you stuff to attend the wedding because because the dad wants to get the wedding trending.
Right. Yeah.
And I like you walk in and it's a goodie bag full of this and that and like bracelets and iPhones and gift cards and like
well most weddings have hashtags now. Now granted the hashtag is specifically so that they can find their wedding photos on Instagram later. But it is like when you walk in and you're like, tag your photos with this hashtag, you know, and it's like it's silly, but like I think we can play on all of that.
I think so too.
In terms of,
and I think that can be our Frank Engelhofer and Howard Weinstein. I think that's what they're in charge of. But that also means we have a role that I think we need that I have not cast.
Okay,
we need a choreographer because it's not a modern social media wedding unless there's a big choreographed dance.
Of
all the groomsmen and all the bridesmaids doing some big elaborate Instagram TikTok dance. You haven't seen these?
Oh, no.
Oh man,
no. But I know who we should get then for that.
Oh, great. Keep that in mind.
So I'll set that aside.
Because I think we need one of those.
It won't be at my wedding. I can tell you that much.
I mean, it's pretty popular. You never know. You get a whole dance choreographed with you and Bethany to the Ewok song. It could happen.
Oh wow! I mean, that would be something.
I mean, also, the two of you are such fans of romantic comedies. There must be romantic comedies like you come out and like there's a song from a romantic comedy, or you do the Cuban Pete song from The Mask. There's got to be something that you two would dance to.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe, but. I don't know.
Look, you're in the middle of figuring out a wedding yourself. That's stuff you're going to have to start thinking about.
Well, I think that's where my head was at while I was
Yeah.
watching this too.
It only just occurred to me now in the moment as I said that.
Yeah. Well, because what I was thinking was like while I was watching it, I was like, man, why is George being like this? What would I be like if this happened? And then I started thinking about it, and I was like, oh, I would be really excited, probably too excited. Oh, and then like it all happened. It all just rushed over me. So there you go. That's how this movie came to be. Yeah.
Like it. I mean, I want to talk more about the movie, but your idea is so simple and efficient that we kind of covered it. I don't know what else there is to say about the movie itself. Other than let's talk about the what does he do? Like because he's not in communications. What's a modern day equivalent that a millennial dad wouldn't understand, but that a young person would? Oh, I actually know. I have an idea.
Okay.
So a friend of mine sent me this. There was a company literally looking to hire someone for $80,000 to $120,000 a year. And the job description was meme artist, shit poster, and community manager.
Wow.
I mean, social media promotion is very, very real, and it's absolutely something someone can do independently. Like, you can be an independent contractor and do that.
Yeah.
Or you can work for a company and do that.
I think you could do something like that. Because I do like the joke of being like, oh, I'm a shit poster. That's my job. I think that's a funny joke. I also think the idea of being a vlogger, like a travel vlogger, where it's just like, what do you do for a living? It was like, oh, I go places and I film it and I tell people about it as I'm there. They're like, people just pay you to go on vacation? Well, not exactly, because it's my job, but sort of. Yeah. So
Yeah, I love it.
Just the idea of like, yeah, I have a job, but it's not a job. It doesn't look like a job to anyone, outside of like people, the person who's doing it. To everyone else, they're like, yeah, you don't see the 12 hours where I spend, creating this video, posting this video, or editing this video. You just see me on vacation. And you don't
see the hours I spent working with a developer to make sure I got the correct filter for these pictures.
Yeah, right. Yeah. So that's something. Because I also think that some of the elements of, because if I have something negative to say about Father of the Bride, well, I have quite a few. I've done things, but it's all in good fun kind of negative, not like, ooh, movie bad. It's more just like, isn't it funny watching a movie made by boomers and how out of touch it is now?
Largely, it wasn't movie bad. It was largely movie good, but...
Yeah, right. But Diane Keaton doesn't get a lot to do in this. It's more of just like, oh, George. It's a lot of that. And so what I would want to do is take the character of George that we get in Father of the Bride and transfer some of those elements over to her character, so that a lot of the things that he was worried about like, I don't understand his job and I don't know how he's going to earn money, is actually her having those feelings, so that it frees up George to just be like, no, I'm all in. They're going to get married. They're going to live happily ever after forever. And so it's that way it gives her some more things to do, so that it's like a, their relationship then becomes like a dreamer and a realist. Mm-hmm. And you both sense like where conflict comes in their marriage, but also ultimately why they're kind of perfect for each other.
Yeah.
Of like they balance each other out. And I think that there's an element that you could do with her there, and also make her really funny the way that Steve Martin's George is in the movies, where like, yeah, he's overbearing. Yeah, he's worried about all these things, but it's in a fun, silly way, not in a like I'm the serious one way. You know what I mean? Uh-huh. Yeah. So
I agree with that. One of the criticisms I would give of the original movie is they specifically say that the Diane Keaton character also owns her own business and does her own work. Yeah. But it's never mentioned. And anytime like the time comes to pay for anything for the wedding, it's George paying for it. as if Diane Keaton doesn't also have her own money or doesn't also earn and contribute
like the way
to
that
money.
it's depicted, when in reality they probably share a bank account and he's just writing the checks or whatever. But like
in reality, it could very easily be like Diane Keaton could write the check. She'd be like, whatever. Like my parents have a joint account, but like they also kind of will pay for things separately. But also it's still with the joint account. So just like get Diane Keaton to cut the check. It's fine.
Yeah. Where it's just like George, you make $150,000 a year and so do I. What's the problem? Like, right.
Because it was like they like you are an equal here and dismissed. So I feel like, yes, I think we need to introduce her, give her concerns. It's like, you're spending our money.
Right. Right. And the extra element is like, you're spending our money and we worked our entire lives. Like, this is our savings. And
we don't go to Europe. We don't do expensive things. I don't wear jewelry because we're saving.
Yeah, because we're saving so that we can actually retire and not fake retire.
Yes.
like most people. Yeah. So, I think that there's a lot of that there. There's tension there of like this person who's like, look, I love you so much, but oh my God, get it together. Please stop spending our money,
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree with that. Okay, then let's talk about the Mackenzies.
Yeah.
Obviously, I don't think either of us wants them to be like the Bel Air family.
No.
So theoretically, what I like in the original movie is that they're the couple that's like, this is a good example. They're super rich, but I don't really care about that. What I care about is that they're just like, the kids are in love. If it doesn't work out, it doesn't work out, but it was their decision to make. We love them, we raise them, we support them.
Yeah.
And I think that that's an important perspective to have as everyone else is kind of like freaking out and going through the motions. I don't want them to be super rich, but like I also don't particularly care what they do for a living. But I like the idea, like you go in and it's like, oh yeah, no, I was nervous. Like you anticipate that they'll kind of be whoa, these people are freaking out too. But they're the ones who are like, no, we support them, we love them, they're our kids, we raise them, and assuming we raise them right, everything's fine.
Yeah.
But I don't know where to put them, is what I'm saying.
Yeah. I don't know. I think the trick is going to be, because like all of those things that you said are true. However, none of those things really apply to the movie, the version of the remake we're making, right? So we have to like.
Still do. I think you still need the person that's like, just listen to them. Just listen to what they're saying. Like we went with them and checked out this really good. Like you can even have Annie and Brian say, we went with the in-laws to go check out this super small venue that we really, really liked. While you were doing that, I found the gifting suite to end all gifting suites. So it's it's the stuff. It's people to let. When the camera's not on them, they have somewhere else to go and someone else to be with.
Right. Yeah. I think that makes sense. The sort of grounded parents, but then it's also like, well, like what do they care? They're not the ones spending any money because it's the bride's family that spends the money, And so it's sort of like that's the perspective that George has on it, where it's just like
it also could be that's also really an antiquated thought, and this couple can be insisting the entire time, look, we don't think that what you're doing is like you shouldn't be doing this, but if you're going to pay for it, let us help you. And like George just keeps turning them down. Yeah.
To the with his wife like standing behind her, just like getting like eyes wide, getting wider and wider as he keeps turning them down.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. No, you can have like a great scene where they just insist on paying for half. Like, after the engagement happens, they're like, hey, I know that the tradition is that, the bride's family pays for the wedding.
That's dumb.
He's our only son. Like, we feel like it's only fair that we also, we pay for this half of the wedding. Like, I feel like that's only fair, and then have George turn them down. I think that's a really good scene and would be really funny from the perspective of whoever we cast as I always forget her name. Nina. Because it doesn't sound like a real name. No. Nina Banks. Yeah. Yeah.
Well, and if you want to have like the crazy like set piece of him crawling around the house running from dogs, you can literally have like they write a check and hand it to whoever the planner is, and you can literally have George sneak back in and try to Ocean's 11 steal that check and replace it with one of his own.
Sure, yeah.
And it could be like later Nina finds the check because he didn't throw it away.
Yeah, that's good.
Something like that.
Yeah.
Because if you're going to be replacing Steve Martin and Martin Short, you need some sort of craziness.
Yeah.
But, yeah. What else do we need? What else are we missing?
One of the things that's missing from the movie, to me, is I want to see more of Annie and Brian.
Agreed.
Like, I want to see more of their romance and what they are like as a couple, because we don't get to really know them at all in Father of the Bride. Like, it's just sort of like we get to know Annie and we get to know Brian a little bit in terms of like what he does for a living and the kind of person he is, but we don't really get a sense of them as a couple or what their relationship is like.
The Brian that exists in the movie that we have now exists solely to make George uncomfortable.
Right.
That's it.
Right.
That's all he does. When he's not making George uncomfortable, he's not on screen.
Right. Very true. Very true.
And I agree with you. I do think we need more for them. And I think what we need from them is, like, while George is doing all these big things, it's how do you deal with your family?
Yeah.
And who do you have that conversation with when you can't have it with the person you normally have the conversation with? Yeah.
I think that's good. I think they should be high school sweethearts, because in order for this to work, I think that they need to be really young. Annie and Brian need to be like 18, 19, like young.
I don't think they need to be that young. I think early 20s is fine.
Well, I think they need to be really young, like fresh out, like pretty well. Like, I don't even know if they're out of college yet, like that kind of young.
You and I are both in our 30s, and I think we can both agree that people who get married at 22, it's still really young.
Okay, no, you're not understanding the math. I'm 36.
I'm sorry, because you want the parents to be millennials.
Right. In order for the parents to be millennials, they have to be like 20 or younger. And so that gives us a 2-year range there.
Sure. That's not the way I cast it. I don't specifically need that. Like, I know that that's how you pitched it. I don't specifically need that for it to work. But in my head, that's never been how things work. I should point out that my dad is 30 years older than me, and my mom is 36 years older than me. So if my mom had a kid at 18, in the same way you're suggesting, and that kid had a kid when they were 18, I would be the same age as that kid.
Wow.
So, like, that's the age gap I'm dealing with, and I'm the older child. My sister's 3 years younger than me.
My mom had me at 20, so I have no
concept of that.
Yeah, it's a very different thing for me.
When I was born, both my parents were well established in their jobs. They were like doing career things, and like my mom owned her own business. My dad was like partner at an accounting firm.
Yeah,
they were doing fine.
I don't know what that's like. Yeah. I don't know. I have no idea. So yeah. So
like while I understand what you're saying, it's hard for me to conceptualize that just because that's not my life experience.
Sure.
And also it's not how I cast, and I'm trying to lean us a little bit that way. But that's just me metagaming a little bit.
Okay, sure. I think that George has to be like kind of no older than 42. And like, George and Nina have to be kind of no older than 42 in order for it to work.
I'm perfectly happy, especially if we're making George the impulsive one, if Nina's the one that's slightly older.
Sure, yeah.
Like, I'm happy to
absolutely.
flip. Like, it's still father of the bride. Like, it still needs to be about the titular father of the bride.
I mean, and I'm just talking about, I'm really just talking about like actors. I'm not really talking about the characters themselves, because like we said, I think before we even started recording, it's like, you can be 50 in Hollywood and look 37. Yeah. So, I mean, I found out
our age. So
yeah, I found out that the have you watched Girls 5 Eva yet?
No.
No, okay, it's excellent. It's
I'm
really,
watching
really
the movie
funny.
watching the TV show about the old people or old person.
Which one is that?
Hacks. I
Oh,
guess the old
Hacks.
person and the young person.
Yeah, yeah. This is about a girl band who sort of comes back. Anyway, Renee Elise Goldsberry is in it, and she's really, really funny. She's of course from Hamilton, and like I didn't know that she was 50. That blew my mind. I was like, for sure she's like my age, and it's like no, she's 50, and I was like, that is bonkers. I've never seen a 50-year-old look as good as she does. It is insane. So, just saying age is just a number.
That's true.
Especially in Hollywood, know.
I agree. So I agree with you in terms of like the characters and kind of like the sense that we're getting. And I'm even comfortable if we're like, they're slightly too old to be millennials, but they're like, we're millennials. You're not millennials.
Yeah, sure.
But like, we're basically talking about our cast. So I think at this point, let's just talk about our cast.
Sure. Okay.
Dueling Genre.
One of the things that I mentioned to you before we started doing this is I didn't start with George. I kind of started with Annie and then backtracked.
Okay. Yeah.
Because one of the problems of this movie is that it is so white. And the only character that's not white has the name of a white person.
Yeah.
And that's the joke.
I guess that's true. Huh. Yeah. Boomers.
So that's why I started with Annie, and I metagamed this a little bit as well, and I picked an Annie that I thought that you specifically would like.
Oh.
So for Annie, my suggestion was Haley Steinfeld.
That's really good. I like that. I'm on board with that. I like Haley Steinfeld a lot, and I think she can still play like really young. And so I think that's good. I like that a lot. That's good.
I also just realized we have yet to mention the fact that she has a younger brother in this movie because he's not relevant at all.
No, he's not. He is the bride in Father of the Bride Part 3-ish.
Oh.
So
I mean,
that's
that
something.
tracks.
Yeah, they brought Kieran Culkin back to play it in the Zoom.
He's doing so much now, and he's great. Everyone loves Kieran Culkin.
Yeah, that's true.
So because we have Haley Steinfeld, her dad, I think, is Italian or something, and then her mom is German and Filipino and British and Irish, and it was a mix of different things. And so because of that, I was specifically looking for one of the parents to be of Filipino descent.
Oh, okay.
It ended up being the mom.
Okay.
And so, but we can get to that in a minute. So because of that, I had two ideas for the dad. Based on everything you're saying, I'm immediately throwing one of them away, which is good because it's the one I already threw away. And I want to talk about the dad. My dad's going to be a little bit older than who you've got. So let's start with who's your 42-year-old father?
So so there's a lot of people that I ran through, right? Some are a little too attractive, but I would love to see them play this kind of role, like Jake Gyllenhaal, for example. I think Jake Gyllenhaal would rock this. Like, I think he would do a really good job. I think he's really charming and funny when he wants to be, but he's also so bonkers attractive. Like, you kind of can't take it seriously, So, and then I thought, well, you could go the opposite route and you could do a Seth Rogen. I can absolutely picture this movie the way we're pitching it with Seth Rogen. And I can, as soon as you say Seth Rogen as George Banks, I'm like, I know that whole movie.
Yeah.
I've got it, the whole thing in my head. I know what it is.
Yep.
Another person that I thought of was Bill Hader, who I think would be really good in this. But I think I settled on Jake Johnson. I think Jake Johnson has the vibe that we're kind of looking for. The vibe of the dad that looks like he's going to be like, I hate weddings. I hate this. But then also would be able to play like weddings. Like he would be able to play that aspect of our George.
Yep.
And I think he would be a really good pick. So he's my pick, is Jake Johnson.
I think that's a great pick. I think it's very similar energy to the guy I have, because the guy I have is basically Jake Johnson plus 5 years.
Oh, okay.
I went with Mark Ruffalo.
Yeah. Sure.
Again, this was before kind of like the whole flip. I think Jake Johnson kind of does a little bit more of what you're suggesting, and especially we've both now seen the Mythic Quest episode Dark Quiet Death.
Oh yeah.
And we're both just like
yeah.
So
he's great.
It's so good.
Yeah.
Like even just as like a standalone like short film, it's amazing.
Yeah.
And so like that part of me is like, Jake Johnson should be in everything now. But like, so, but the part of me is like, I kind of liked the Mark Ruffalo energy of it. Of like, I was kind of like, how do you replace Steve Martin? Like, how do you get kind of like that hang dong, but also fun and exciting? And also, but genuinely a good dude, like that sort of thing. And that is Mark Ruffalo's energy.
Yeah. That's where my Bill Hader was coming from too.
Right.
Was kind of like, who has a Steve Martin energy, and Bill Hader was kind of the best I could come up with. But Mark Ruffalo was good too.
So yeah. I mean, I think we should go with Jake Johnson. I think that kind of fits the mold of what we're thinking.
Okay.
The person I'd originally thrown away is Sam Rockwell, because I think that's Jake Johnson plus 10 years.
Yeah.
Even though I think he's only a year older than Mark Ruffalo, but yeah.
I can see that energy, though. I think he would be able to do the version of the movie we're pitching better than Mark Ruffalo could.
I do
I
too,
think
but I thought he was a little too old.
Yeah.
So in terms of like who could be a modern day Steve Martin, the answer is Sam Rockwell, but that's not really the movie we're making.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
But yeah, okay, so Jake Johnson for George, which brings us to Nina. So for Nina, I kind of wanted someone of Filipino descent, but kind of a mix. This is a woman who you may have seen in A Knight's Tale. She had a recurring role on Sleepy Hollow, and she was the love interest in Wrist Cutters, A Love Story. Her name is Shannon Sossamon.
Oh, sure. Wow, you successfully named all the things that I am not familiar with her in.
Oh, interestingly, just as a thing, you should watch Wrist Cutters.
I've seen Wrist Cutters, but I don't remember her being in it. But I do remember seeing it. Yeah,
I also felt the same way. I was like, she was? I don't remember her. And like, I watched Knight's Tale 6 months ago. Like, we did like a Netflix party and like a big group and watched Knight's Tale, and I was like, okay.
Yeah. I've never seen that movie. I still haven't seen that movie.
It's
one of those.
I mean, you have the benefit of having roommates. Don't watch it alone. That is a movie to watch with other people, but it's great.
Oh, okay. Yeah. I always hear that. I need to make the time to do it. But absolutely.
It's a movie that also I feel like people might recommend and suggest for my podcast, but I don't think you can remake that movie, because that movie is you can't make that movie intentionally.
Oh, sure. Yeah. I could see I could see that. Yeah.
But anyway, I thought that Shannon would be an interesting choice for the mom. A, because she legitimately could be Haley Steinfeld's mother, but also because like she has kind of the right energy. Yeah.
Is she funny? I don't know that I've seen her anything where she's funny. Is she funny in A Knight's Tale?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, good.
I think she's funny in Wrist Cutters also, but she's also funny in Knight's Tale.
Okay, yeah, then great. Yeah, absolutely. Speaking of Knight's Tale, another person who would be really good as this version of George, although I think he's a smidge too old, is Alan Tudyk.
Oh, totally.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah, I was just thinking of that, and I was like, because I looked up Shannon Sossamon, and it was like, you might also be interested in Alan Tudyk, and I was like, wrong. You know what? I am interested in Alan Tudyk. That would work also. But yeah. Okay, yeah, I'm fine with going with Shannon Sossamon.
Cool. All right, so that's our Banks family. Are we going to have a Maddie Banks? Is that necessary?
I mean, I don't know who I don't know. We would cast some no name regardless. Yeah, so yeah,
it is impossible for us to recast this child. The only child that we could possibly cast is the best friend from Jojo Rabbit. And,
sure.
and that's everyone's go-to right now. Like, he's now the kid. He is the new Macaulay Culkin.
Right. Or Jojo Rabbit. I guess we could cast him too. Yeah.
But like, we would have to just like cast someone. If for some plot reason they need a child, fine. But I don't care.
Yeah.
Which brings us to Brian McKenzie. Who are you thinking for Brian McKenzie?
I was thinking the Mackenzies should be black.
Interesting. Go on.
That's my, I'll be honest, I didn't think of a Brian McKenzie, but I do have a John McKenzie because that's where my mind was, but Brian was hard.
He was hard.
Because
he was very difficult.
Yeah. Who do you have?
So my Brian McKenzie is half black and
Okay.
ironically half Filipino. I didn't do this intentionally, but when I looked him up, I was like, great. So I am not especially familiar with him. I've heard his vocal performance in some things, and I know he's a good actor because he's done that. The thing he's working on currently is called Greenleaf, but he's also had roles in Parenthood, and kind of his breakout role was in Shake It Up, like opposite Zendaya.
Okay.
This actor's name is Rashawn Fegan. ROSHON FEGAN.
Sean.
Right age, right look, and frankly, right energy. He seemed like he would be a fun cast.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Not
Yeah,
like
I've
the
seen him in
business.
stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
I've seen him in stuff.
and because he's half black, half Filipino, that's also the breakdown I have for his parents. But
Okay. For his dad, I have Hannibal Buress.
interesting. That is not the energy I went with. Let me tell you about my pair.
Okay.
For his parents, I kind of went with, like, you look at them and you think they're going to be like stern and fierce, but then you actually talk to them and they're like really loving and supportive. And that's like, I wanted to go with a different first impression than what they actually portray.
Okay.
So my John McKenzie is Dave Bautista.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
And then I had Dave Bautista married to Aisha Tyler.
Oh, that's fun.
Yeah.
I like that. I like that because the idea of Jake Johnson interacting with Dave Bautista makes me giggle.
Right.
So I like that.
Cool.
I think that's good. Yeah.
All right. Fun. Then, if you're comfortable with that, then I think we can move on to Frank Engelhofer and Howard Weinstein.
Okay. So for these two, I decided to go with the comedic duo.
Great.
Only one of them is like super well known because one of them got on SNL, whereas the other one, his sort of comedic partner, is just like he just does a podcast with, and they still do comedy and stuff together, like live comedy and stuff together.
Both of mine are also SNL alums.
So I went with Bowen Yang and Matt Rogers.
So I also went with Bowen Yang.
Yeah, it's obvious,
it's
right?
So perfect. It's
perfect.
It's who you need to have.
Yeah,
like there is no one else who can portray that role.
Yeah.
And so my Frank Engelhofer was Fred Armisen.
Oh, see, Bowen Yang is my Frank, and then my Howard is Matt Rogers. I flipped it back because I was like, I don't like the joke. I would rather. I think it's funnier if the Asian character has like this ridiculous French name. I think that's funnier than
having a Jewish name.
Than having a Jewish name.
Great.
Yeah,
I love it.
Yeah,
I think that's great. Matt Rogers and Bowen Yang.
Yeah,
I think that's amazing.
I do love Fred Armisen though. I think Fred Armisen's the best.
Yeah, I mean, if you're looking for the modern day Martin Short, it's Fred Armisen.
Yeah, I agree with that 100%.
But I think Matt Rogers and Bowen Yang is. And not just because I also had Bowen Yang, but also flipping them I think is the right choice. So I agree with that too.
All right.
So the only other character that like I have is choreographer, which I don't have anyone for, but you said you had a good idea for choreographer.
Yeah. What if we used? I'm gonna do my best. Apologies in advance. Demi Adejujibi. He's a writer on The Good Place. He's a performer. Every year on the 27th of September, he makes a video that is about that song. Do you remember the 27th of September? And so and so every year he does a video about that and does like a dance, and it's like this ridiculously choreographed single shot video that just escalates to a ridiculous degree. And when you were talking about what kind of dance you were talking about, which is a dance that'll go viral online, the first guy I thought of was Demi Adejuyubi.
Yeah, that's perfect. That is exactly what I was thinking of. That was a moment of brilliance, Scott, and I appreciate it.
21st of September.
Yeah, that's fantastic. Okay, great. That's a choreographer. Are there any other actor roles in this that we need to pay attention to?
Not in this first one, you know.
I haven't seen the other two.
Yeah. Not in this first one. I think that's basically it in this one.
Great.
Yeah.
Then let's talk about writer and director.
Okay. For writer, the first thing that came to mind for this, because of the tone that I kind of wanted to have, which is very similar to that Nancy Meyers tone, but we're flipping everything else, right? So we want the tone to kind of stay consistent, which is why you kind of don't want the Seth Rogen, because then it's like, well, that's a different tone, right? So when I think of the tone of this and other movies that have similar tones with like a younger writer-director kind of idea, I first thought of The Big Sick. So my writer is Emily V. Gordon. Of, Emily V. Gordon and Kumail Nanjiani. But since we don't have any, we can throw Kumail in there as well, but it seems to me that she is writing on her own now. She's like solo writing while he's acting and stuff.
She needed something to do while he was in Eternals.
and she needed something to do while he was in the gym.
Also, yes.
So, but yeah. So I feel like now she's kind of a solo writer, and so I think that would be a really fun pick.
I think that's a really good idea. So the person that I have is a writer who has written on Broad City. She's written on The Good Place, and she is also one of the writer creators on Hacks, which is. Honestly, it's the reason I sat down last night to start watching Hacks, because I'm like, I can't talk about this writer and not know about the thing she's currently working on.
Sure.
This writer's name is Jen Statsky.
Oh, sure, yeah.
I think we should probably go with Emily Gordon, but like in terms of kind of walking the line of modern, like big and also small modern comedy, I felt like she would be a good person for that. But I think if we're comparing movies, I think The Big Sick kind of handles the tone that we're going for.
Yeah. Okay.
And it like literally Emily Gordon knows how to write in a way to allow comedic people to play.
Yes.
And I think that's important.
And never portray like the tone of the movie.
Right.
Yeah.
And I think that's good. So that's why I think Emily Gordon is the correct way to go.
Okay.
For my director, I went with a director who has really only directed one thing, and it came out last year. And but it also kind of was like the tone of a serious thing is happening, but we're gonna have fun, right? So I went with the director of Palm Springs, Max Barbaco. Which at this point, have you seen it?
Have I seen Palm Springs?
Yeah,
buddy, I saw Palm Springs before anybody. I saw it a year before everybody, because I saw it in a test screening. It was the last movie I saw in theaters.
Oh, fair enough. Anyway, I really like Palm Springs, and I thought that he would be a good job of
should have won Best Picture. Should have won Best Picture.
I agree.
Yeah.
I 100% agree. It's so
it should have at least been nominated. I mean, come on.
So much.
Yeah.
One of the things that I was like really sad about while researching this movie is that like Touchstone Pictures doesn't exist anymore. Like these kind of mid-level comedies, like you read these reports and like these like people talking about, oh, the way Hollywood used to be. Movies like this don't exist anymore, really. They're big or they're small. And like finding those movies in the middle, it's so hard. And they're so good. And, like just trying to do research for modern day comedic equivalents of this, and there just aren't any.
Yeah.
And this was the bread and butter of like the 80s and early 90s.
Yeah. Yeah.
But they just don't exist.
Yeah.
And I feel like the indie space and making movies on your own is kind of how people are sort of starting to bring this back.
Yeah, it's true.
So anyway, Max Barbaco, who'd you have?
So I chose a director who has also only done one feature film, but they've done a ton of TV. They've directed episodes of Brooklyn Nine-Nine. They've directed episodes of Glow, Fresh Off the Boat, The Good Place, etc., dating all the way back to The Office. So they've worked a lot, but they've only directed one feature film, and in my opinion, they knocked it out of the park, which is the movie Set It Up. Have you ever seen Set It Up?
I haven't heard of Set It Up.
Set It Up is a Netflix romantic comedy where two assistants try to set their bosses up so that they can have time off, because the problem is that their bosses are workaholics, and if their bosses are workaholics, they're their assistants, so they have to be at work all the time. So they try to get their bosses to hook up so that they can, like, you know, have weekends off and evenings and stuff.
I love that as a premise.
And the bosses are Lucy Liu and what is his name? I always forget his name. I think it's from Save the Last Dance, I think is the guy.
I don't know.
Oh boy, I forget that you don't know movies.
I mostly just don't know names, and that contributes to my not knowing
No,
names.
it wasn't Save the Last Dance. Let me just look it up, Set It Up. Why did I do this?
Glenn Powell.
No.
No?
Tay
Taye
Diggs is the other boss. So it's Lucy Liu and Tay Diggs are the bosses, and then Glenn Powell and Zoe Deutsch are the assistants, and they set up their bosses, and then they also fall in love in the process. It is really, really excellent. It's like I would say it's probably the best rom-com on Netflix. And they have quite a few, but I think it's the best one.
And that's high praise from you.
Yeah. Oh, and I mean, like, original Netflix original movies, not
yes, of course.
Yeah, because like sometimes they get other movies, but yeah.
Yes.
So that's my choice, because I think she's awesome, and it bums me out she hasn't done another movie yet. Granted, there was a pandemic, so maybe she's got one in the works. Yeah.
Now that I'm on the IMDb page, do you want to say her name out loud?
Oh, sorry, I didn't say it yet. Claire Scanlon. Sorry.
There we go.
Claire Scanlon. She rules. And I hope she directs a new movie soon. And I want it to be this one.
It looks like she has two projects in development. One is the untitled Ike Barinholtz David Stassen Amazon Studios project, which I don't care about. But then here's the one that I think you will like. It is a movie called, I presume it's a movie called The People We Hate at the Wedding. So I don't think you could have picked anyone better.
Wow, I didn't even know about that. That's great.
That is great. All right, great. Emily Gordon and Claire Scanlon. I think that's perfect.
Nice.
All right, great. That's our cast list. Let me take you through it.
Okay.
George Banks will be played by Jake Johnson. Nina Banks will be played by Shannon Sossamon. Annie Banks will be Haley Steinfeld. Will there be a Maddie Banks? Who knows? It could go either way. Brian McKenzie will be Rashawn Fegan. Frank Engelhofer will be Bowen Yang, and Howard Weinstein will be Matt Rogers. John McKenzie will be Dave Batista, and Joanna McKenzie will be Aisha Tyler. All of this will be written by Emily V. Gordon. Oh, and our choreographer is Demi Adejujubi, written by Emily Gordon and then directed by Claire Scanlon. And that is the, according to my math, 8th Father of the Bride movie. Including all of the sort of Father of the Bride movies.
Right. Yeah.
But it in terms of just with the title Father of the Bride, the 3rd.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's great. I like what we did. I think this will be a good movie. I would watch this movie. Would you watch this movie?
I would. I would write this movie. I would make this movie. I would love it. Yeah.
I mean, honestly, you should write this movie because this is so up your alley.
Yeah, it is. I'd have to be able to. I'd have to go pitch it because somebody owns this. But
no, your idea was a flip on the thing. You come in.
Oh, that's true.
That's true. Come in, you give it a different title, and then you're like, what would get this to sell? Who owns the rights to Father of the Bride?
That's
Touchstone.
true.
Disney. Never mind.
Yeah. So they're making. Yeah, they're making the Latino Father of the Bride. I think for Disney Plus. I'm pretty sure.
But we already know what that's going to be. So just change the name and write this. I think you can and should.
Yeah, maybe I should. I think you're probably right. That's a good point. Maybe I just will.
Cool. All right. Well, then we're at the point where time for plugs. What other things on Dueling Genre should people be listening to right now? Or
you should listen to everything.
You know what I have yet to plug because I'm not sure how to do it? Talk about the Patreon.
Oh, yeah. So duelinggenre.com/support is our Patreon. So we have 2 major tiers there. We have the $3 archive level where you get 1 bonus episode a week. and as well as access to the archives of everything that we put out before like January 2021. And it is a lot of stuff. I mean, I'm talking like it's over 300 podcasts that you would get access to instantly for $3. If you can listen to 300 podcasts in a month, great. You got the greatest deal of all time. But that's all for $3. And then the $5 tier is what we call Dueling Genre Premiere. You get 3 bonus podcasts a week. The 2 additional podcasts are Dueling Genre Versus, which is a hosted by it's mini series rewatch pod. It's a rewatch podcast. We rewatch TV, movies, hosted by a variety of hosts from the Dueling Genre staple, featuring guest hosts from the Dueling Genre staple. Sam's been on a few episodes.
Versus?
Versus, haven't you?
My first episode will be coming out not this weekend, but next weekend. So the weekend before this no. 2 weekends before this episode comes out, I think, if I'm doing my math right, and I'm not.
Okay.
That will be the first episode. I'm on an episode of The Good Place.
Dueling Genre versus The Good Place.
And I don't know if you've listened to that yet, but we have some fun.
Okay, that's good. I have not yet.
a tendency to go off the rails when I'm not trying to keep everything under control.
Yeah, I know. And the reason I know is because Sam has been on many an episodes of Dueling Genre Tonight, which is a pop culture news show that we do with a variety of Dueling Genre hosts. I host it, or Benny hosts it, and Benny Bennett. And so we sort of like alternate. And it's a lot of fun. And we just talk about the week's entertainment news and go quickly off the rails almost every week. And it's usually Sam's fault.
I will cop to that, yeah.
You want to hear Sam go on a 40-minute tirade on Disney Channel original movies? Well, that's where you want to go.
It's on the internet.
It sounds like you need to...
Don't worry about it.
It sounds like you need to become a Dueling Genre patron. I will say, as someone who, my podcast has joined Dueling Genre this year, but I've been a Dueling Genre patron for a long time. Like, it's several years at this point, and I've been at the $5 level for at least 2 years. I don't remember. Mm-hmm. It's worth it. And especially now that it helps keep the lights on at Ideal Remake, you should consider looking into a Patreon support of Dueling Genre. It would be great. Yeah.
And I should talk about it on this show more, but I'm normally so happy we made it through the episode that I forget things like that.
Yeah, that's fair.
I feel
like that.
I should pay more attention.
I feel like that sometimes. Add it to your show notes.
That's
what happens to me.
I should do that, yes. My show notes are still take a selfie. So that's how often I update them. Oh, okay. Because I was really bad at taking a selfie with the guest for promotional purposes. Oh, yes. Fair enough. Check it out. There is a link in the show notes of every episode that has come out this year. So if you are in your car listening to this, if you click on the podcast link when you get back home, at the end of the description, it says Dueling Genre Patreon, and there should be a link you can click on. Yeah. Or you can just go duelinggenre.com/support and support us on Patreon. Yeah. So, yeah. Cool. Do you have any social medias or anything you want people to follow? At Scott Carelli on Twitter and Instagram. I'm on Facebook, but don't follow me there. Do you want to spell Carelli for people just in case? Oh, yeah, sure. Carelli. Cool. Yeah. Cool. Anything else? Yeah. Listen to Franchisography, please, if you forgot from the beginning of the show. You really should listen to Franchisography. Start with episode 3 of Men in Black, and then go from there. It's going to be great. Yeah. Yeah. Skip right over 1 and 2. Well, you got to go 3, 2, 1. You got to build. Oh, okay. Okay. And then go back and hit up 4. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. As long as we're in a Kumail Nanjiani mood. Let's keep that gravy train rolling. Yeah. Yeah. True. Yeah. Perfect. Cool. If you're interested in following me, I'm at Sam Gasch, SamGasch on Twitter. Or you can follow the podcast at Ideal Remake on Twitter or Instagram, but mostly Instagram. Or you can join us on Facebook at Ideal Remake or Ideal Remake Podcast. And that would be great. Another thing you can do, if you can't afford to support the Patreon, or if you think that there's like social causes and things that need your money more right now, we completely understand. But one thing you can do to support my podcast, any of the Dueling Genre podcasts, or any podcast you love, is to go on Apple Podcasts and leave us a 5-star review. That would be incredibly helpful. If you just take 20 minutes out of your day and just go through and leave all your favorite shows 5-star reviews, all of us would say thank you. And that is me saying thank you now to all the people who've done that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I will end with this. Scott, what is your favorite quote from the movie Father of the Bride?
Oh, what? You didn't prepare me for this.
I know.
You did that opening quote so well.
Thank you.
I know what it is. It's so my favorite quote, because I think it's the funniest moment in the movie, is George. I'll quote the whole thing if you want me to, but it's George having the tirade at the supermarket about the hot dog buns. That's my favorite
line?
Yeah, it's my favorite line. It's
so
like,
good.
Yeah, I want to buy 8 hot dogs and 8 hot dog buns to go with them. But no one sells 8 hot dog buns. They only sell 12 hot dog buns. So I end up paying for 4 buns I don't need. So I'm removing this superfluous buns. And that all ends with like, George Banks is saying no. Who's George Banks? Me! It's so good. I love that.
That is amazing. Yeah. I also like that, like, over the course of the scene, because obviously they film it for a while, and he keeps going back, and he does it to 3 packages of hot dog buns.
Yes.
And he removes 4 buns.
Because the monologue is so long.
Right. But he does it 3 times, and he removes 4 buns 3 times, which is 12 buns. So he just could have bought 2 packs.
Oh, man. That's good.
And it's just, like, my math brain was like, there you go. But, like, that scene is so good. I love it.
Yeah. Ugh.
I think mine would be, and you're telling everybody at how much the wedding has cost. I'm not telling everybody. Cut to a person, like police officer in jail, $250 a head. Oh yeah, that was pretty good too. Yeah, I love that whole scene. I like Diane Keaton being like, "I'm the reasonable one. Here's what's going to happen." Just that scene slays me. I love everything about it. Yeah. Steve Martin, man. Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. Eventually someone's going to ask to do the jerk for this, and I don't think I'm going to be able to do it. He's just too good. Yeah. That's also an extremely difficult movie to make relevant in today's... Yeah. I mean, I've danced around it, but I would end up pulling in ideas of things that I've already done before, but that's a movie for another time. Scott, thank you so much for being my guest for this episode. This was super duper fun, and I appreciate it. Yeah, thanks for doing this with me, Sam. Yeah, my pleasure. This was great.